I guess we're without Canada boy over here. We're going live and without Canada
Yeah.
boy.
No Canada. I don't know any of the other words to that fucking song, so I can't even make fun of it like I want to because I don't know the rest of the words.
You can't even begin to sing it. It's
Yeah,
so
our
sad.
God and Queen save you, and we love moose meat, something like that.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I thought, is it they like moose meat,
Mhm.
or because I thought it was kind of like horses for them. Like they don't actually eat the horses. They just ride them. But for them, it's moose instead.
No,
Or
I think
meat.
they ride bear. I
They
think.
ride bear.
Yeah, they're Canadians. They're very grizzly.
Are they though? I thought they were very like passive aggressive type individuals.
No, they are super passive aggressive, but they're also very grizzly. They're very weird. I don't know. I don't know. They're a weird species. I don't know a lot of them.
They are strange. I feel like they came from like a different world.
Oh,
Like
definitely. Yeah.
Like if there were ever like any extraterrestrials watching over us, it would be Canadians, 100%.
No. Well, they are a subset of humans. They are not, what we are. They are like closer to Neanderthal than us. Like they're
Makes.
definitely in the lineage tree, but yeah.
Are they the missing link between monkeys and us?
No, I don't think they're that advanced. They're not that advanced.
All right, let's do this. Let's kick the show off.
This is Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Shane Manila, Jakob Sanderson, and Chase Vernon.
I'm just looking at my roster on this one team, right? And it's a 6 seed right now. The quarterbacks are Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. And coming into the season, you'd be like, there's no way that team's not a top 3 playoff seed. And now it's battling for the playoffs at a 6 seed. Thanks, Lamar. Thanks, Patrick.
And it's kind of funny because Lamar Jackson is pretty much like an MVP candidate at this point. I mean, behind maybe Tom Brady. I mean, it's not that many strong MVP candidates this year.
He's only had really one rough game. It's really been Mahomes has been kicking my ass.
Yeah, but he's like quarterback 1 in fantasy, at least up until the bye week last week. He was because I looked it up. I had a bet with somebody.
Man, and not points per game.
I think might have been total points, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Anyways, welcome on into Fantasy Football Intervention. We have another show coming at y'all. Big shout out to, of course, Fantasy Football Discussion for joining, along with everybody on Twitter. If you guys are on Twitter, we cannot see your comments. We cannot see what's going on over there on Twitter, just the way that they've done things. So go over to youtube.com/fantasy intervention. Once again, that's youtube.com/fantasy intervention. That's where we will also be prioritizing the questions as the show goes on. Make sure you guys hit subscribe, hit like on the show, and yeah, let's kick this show off. So we had this little game that we played at the very end of the episode where we end up trying to take players outside the top 15 for quarterbacks and tight ends, top 20 for wide receivers and running backs. And we try and predict them finishing inside of the top 10. Last week, it was actually a phenomenal week for us overall. And luckily, Jakob was not here, which was pretty fantastic. I actually had every player that I picked. They finished inside the top 24. I believe Evan Ingram was the only one that really let us down, which I hated that pick anyways. I said it in the show. I was like, I hate this pick. This is the worst pick I'm ever going to make in the entire season. But I had to do it because it was the Eagles matchup, and it was stupid because after I dove into the DFS, I ended up taking Chase Myrick way over Evan Ingram because Chase Myrick is probably the better tight end than Evan Ingram will ever hope to be. So, yeah, it was a little bit disappointing. Shane, you nailed a couple of them overall. I think I want to say you ended up getting close to Darnell Mooney, who was absolute fire this week. So hopefully we can actually pick them all inside the top 10 this week. Doubt that will happen, but we like to take those chances. Before we hop on to the next segment, I do want to bring some of these questions in the chat. We have Giovanni over here, or Giovanni, I'm sorry, Hovani. Is it Hovani?
I would say it's Giovanni.
Giovanni, okay. Giovanni, sorry for butchering your name. Wilson or Burrow this week? And let me I just did a breakdown on Burrow, actually. And over the past 2 games, it was only 2 games in his entire career where he had consecutively less than 30 attempts, or 2 consecutive games consecutively where he had less than 30 attempts. He also is the first time where he had 2 consecutive games of less than 200 yards. It was the first time over his past 3 games where he had less than 3 passing touchdowns. So obviously those are all-time lows. However, with his completion percentage, it's the highest 3-game completion percentage that he's had consecutively in his entire career. So obviously his entire career pretty much consists of like 1 year. But with that being said on Burrow, it's pretty much been Joe Mixon's world, and Joe Burrow is just living in it over the past 2 to 3 weeks. Joe Mixon's been on fire this entire season. This past 2 weeks, he's pretty much taken the entire offense into his hands, and Joe Burrow hasn't even been passing him the rock. It's been all on the ground over the past couple weeks. So, I mean, Burrow is definitely nerve-wracking. However, Wilson just does not look good. Wilson's overthrowing the ball. He's trying to force feed DK Metcalf on the sidelines at inopportune times instead of when he should be force feeding him the ball. He's missing Tyler Lockett over the middle of the field. I mean, Wilson looks bad. Burrow looks good, and his stats have been bad, but Wilson has looked bad, and his stats have been bad. So in this opportunity, I'm going with Burrow in this one. It should be another heavy Joe Mixon game, but at least Burrow, is a good quarterback and has his, wits about him. It's just not his opportunity. With Wilson, I can't say the same. I don't know what's going on with Wilson.
Yeah, I got to agree with everything you just said. There's really no reason to prolong it. I'm not starting Wilson anywhere where I have a viable option to do otherwise.
I mean, people are talking about it being a buy opportunity for dynasty leagues. I'm just not seeing it. We talk about an aging quarterback who just isn't right after breaking his finger. And I understand he's not washed. He's not. But as a buy opportunity, I'm fading that pretty heavily. So let's go ahead and hop on to one more question from him, and then we'll get started on our first segment where we talk about the dump-off containment efficiency score. We have pick 1 with Chubb being out. We have Stevenson or Drake, and Drake actually has great opportunity, speaking of the DOCE score, up against the Washington football team. Washington football team ranks, I believe, 29th. Let me finish. He ranks 29th up against pass-catching running backs. However, Washington has been immensely better over the past 3 to 4 weeks. It seems like they're coming together ever since the bye week, and Washington looks like the same defense that left off back in 2020. They're putting everything together. They're playing more as a team without Sweat in there and without Chase Young. It seems like the same defense from 2020, and Drake hasn't seen the opportunities in the passing game over the past couple weeks. It's been Josh Jacobs. So I'm actually going to fade Drake in this matchup, contrary to the DOCE score, just because of the recency bias, and I'm going to play Stevenson.
Yeah, spot on. I mean, that was all I was going to say is like the DOCE score is on point. You're just picking the wrong guy for it. It's going to be Jacobs. I mean, Jacobs did he have 7 receptions or he had 5 receptions last week? Either way, they've been using him a ton in the passing game, and that's the only value Drake had. And Jacobs is taking that from him. So, yeah, I'm not going to go with Drake. And Stevenson, it does suck that he's in a split backfield. But at least it's a split backfield versus you might get in there whenever Josh Jacobs gets hurt, which is, look, it's likely to happen. It happens typically once every game, and you're just hoping that it's not too bad. So, but yeah, I'll go with Stevenson.
I mean, it's kind of funny because we saw right after John Gruden get fired, right? They started using Drake right off the bat. And they're like, why isn't John Gruden using Drake more often? And then they realized that Drake's not that good. So, they reverted right back to Josh Jacobs. Yeah. And it was exactly what John Gruden was doing in the first place. So, I mean, we're seeing it right here. I mean, he's seen 8 routes run, 12 routes run, 24 right after John Gruden got fired. And I believe that was the bye week as well on week 8. But yeah, it's not pretty over there for Kenyon Drake. I'm definitely going to be going Stevenson. So we will get to some of these other questions, of course. Make sure if you guys are on Twitter, we cannot see your comments. We can't even see that you're watching. So head over to youtube.com/fantasyintervention, hit subscribe, and we will answer your questions over there on YouTube. They take priority over all the others, including those on Facebook. All right, so the DOCE score review, where we judge dump-off our dump off containment efficiency up against pass catching running backs, right? It'll allow us to kind of tell which running backs to play, which running backs to fade. And this week, the DOCE score pretty much smashed outside of a couple instances. I mean,
let me correct you real quick. You said this week. It's every week.
Every week, yeah. Well, it had week 11 was rough, but every other week outside of week 11 and I think week 4, which is way too early of a sample size, it's been hitting almost every single week. So real quick, I'm going to read through it like fast possibly. The Carolina Panthers, who are first, they only allowed 2.3 points in the receiving game to Gaskin. Texans allowed 0. The Denver Broncos had a tough time up against Eckler, but the DOCE score really doesn't apply to studs like CMC and Austin Eckler. However, yeah, they did. The Bears only allowed 6.8 to Williams. The Eagles allowed 5.3 to Barkley. I mean, it's just time after time it hit. And then the other side of the ball, where the teams are bad up against pass catching running backs, it was a little bit of a mixed review because we didn't have a ton of players go off. But like, for example, and I want to get your take on this, the New York Giants, who are, 26th up against pass catching running backs going into week 12, Gainwell and Boston Scott, it was mainly Gainwell, but those two combined got 9 points in the receiving game.
Yeah.
But Kenny Gainwell led the entire team
with 3 receptions, and 2 of them came on the final drive. So there's that. They weren't throwing the running backs. When Sanders got hurt and didn't play in the second half, but they weren't throwing the running backs at all. And Jalen Hurts was just a trash can. He probably would have missed them, to be quite honest with you.
But I mean, even without him, sitting there and targeting the running back, he still led the team in receiving, which I think is absolutely, absurd to an extent. So that was one that we missed on. But I mean, I believe that was more on Jalen Hurts. The Jets, Burkhead got 5.7. However, Johnson, he only ran 8 routes and saw 2 targets on the 8 routes for 16 yards. It's not great, but it might be something indicative of what's to come because Johnson could not stay healthy or stay in the game on this one. I don't know what happened with Najee Harris. Najee Harris up against the Bengals. He saw 19 targets back in week 3. 19. And this past week, he saw, 5 targets? Yeah, I think it went 3 for 5. It made absolutely no sense to me. I could not figure out for the life of me why Najee Harris was not targeted more in this game. I mean, Ben's arm is washed, but he's still he could still pass 2 yards down the field, right?
Yeah, I think with Najee Harris, they see that he's just completely really inefficient and there's no upside to passing to him. So instead of going 2-yard dump offs to him, they're going to go 4-yard dump offs to Deontay Johnson.
Oh, man, it's tough. Hey, we actually have Taylor in the chat. Taylor, I don't know if you're still in here with this, but why were they not dumping it off to Najee Harris? I mean, that was absolutely embarrassing. And what the Bengals were able to do up against the Steelers was absolutely just embarrassing for Steelers, and it's something to be concerned about moving forward. I know that Ben Roethlisberger's still seeing the attempts, but it's atrocious over there for Steelers fans. Taylor, if you want to pull it up or put your comment in the chat, we'd love to hear back from you. All right, so the last one was the Lions up against Montgomery. Obviously, we have the Elliott and Pollard, then Gibson and McKissick who tore apart the Raiders and the Seahawks. But Montgomery actually had the most receiving yards on the season, or the most receiving points on the season, I should say. He scored 5.8 in the receiving game up against the Lions, which is not good. But, I mean, what's going on with Montgomery? I think he's had 2 finishes in a row of 29th since coming back from the injury. Is this what we were going to expect from Montgomery moving forward, or are we going to see the tail end of last season?
The usage is there, all right? And that's all we can predict. As long as the usage is there, the points will come. So that's literally, that's all I can tell you is just keep running them out there. The usage is there. The snap share is there. I couldn't even remember Khalil Herbert's name for a second because he's just been mothballed. He's getting the usage. He's going to get the points.
I like it. I kind of like it. I don't like Montgomery. I thought that he was, way overvalued at the tail end of last season, but that's what happens. So real quick, let's hop on some news and then hop off. CMC obviously out for the season. Is this something that's where Hubbard is the right pickup? Amir Abdullah, who is taking down the passing work, is up to bat. Like, who are we expecting to emerge from this backfield with a tough schedule, by the way, moving forward?
I guess Amir, because he's the pass catcher. And he was out snapping Chuba over the last 5 weeks or so, however long McCaffrey's been back. and he's the one getting the targets. They started moving away from targeting Chuba in the game in the passing attack the first time he was the lead back to Royce Freeman, which I don't even think he's on that roster anymore. I could be wrong. Pretty sure he was cut. So I don't think they think he's a good pass catcher, which doesn't matter what I think. Again, they don't think he's a good pass catcher, so they're going to be using Amir Abdullah as their pass catching back. And I don't think that offense is good enough that Chuba's going to be scoring enough touchdowns to make up the difference.
Yeah, it's absolutely absurd to me, how this offense is operating as a whole. We expected Terrace Marshall to be a thing he's not, Robbie Anderson to be a thing he's not, and then DJ Moore, and now we have Cam Newton to worry about being efficient down the field. It's scary to roster anybody from the Panthers at this point in time. We have Dalvin Cook out. Dalvin Cook is somebody who, they're saying they're going to hold off to the playoff run if they actually have one. Alexander Mattison was obviously one of the biggest players, but is Kenny actually a guy who you can roster in hopes that he can play like the Mike Boone role, moving into the playoffs?
I mean, in Dynasty, yeah. In redraft, no.
What's the handcuff to Alexander Mattison? Because he can't stay on the field when he's the main guy either.
Well, Alexander Madison's averaging somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 points a game without Dalvin Cook this year. Now it's 2 games, but whatever. They used him as a workhorse in those 2 games.
Right back to the bench. So hey, you did good. You did good, Pig.
Look, that's what happens, right? That's why I don't like, as a philosophical discussion, I don't like pure handcuffs because they only have value when the guy's not in front of them's not playing. That's why I like guys like a Jamal Williams and Tony Pollard, because at least they give you some standalone value. So on the weeks where I'm scrambling and I'm all right, I got to put someone in my flex, I can at least play them.
How did you not mention the guy that is probably the 101 of standalone value handcuffs? How could you not mention that guy? Aaron Jones. I mean, he's the top guy with standalone value as a handcuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Aaron Jones, he's a great handcuff for A.J. Dillon moving forward. I would definitely.
He will be next year. Yes, he will.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. A.J. Dillon's one of my studs that I can't get away from. I've loved him since before the draft. So I'm excited that he ended up with the Packers. I'm excited that he is now the top running back for the Packers moving forward. So let's answer a couple more questions real quick, Shanks. We got them lining up. We have John in the chat asking the Bucs defense or the Cowboys defense for this upcoming week. And the Bucs defense, man, they're trying to overcompensate for their problems in the backfield, and they're pulling defenders out of the box, which are allowing teams to run against them now, which isn't the best up against Cordell Patterson. Meanwhile, they have, I believe, the 26th worst dump-off containment efficiency score. We saw it was brutal. What teams have been able to do against them thus far in the season. But, they're backing off on the DOCE score, and they're allowing teams like I brought up to run against them, like with Antonio Gibson back a couple weeks ago. Meanwhile, we have the Cowboys matchup, and the Cowboys matchup is something where it's, the Saints who are depleted, who have Taysom Hill possibly playing quarterback, and he's hurt, pain tolerance issues. Dude, this is tough. I think I'm going to go with the Buccaneers on this one, but the Cowboys could easily give you a 15 to 20 point performance on defense.
Yeah, that's a thing. I'm going to go with the upside defense here. It can't be. That's Tampa Bay too. They both are really.
They both have upside.
Yeah, they both force turnovers. Man, this is tough.
And we could see the Bucs defense in a division rivalry allowing a couple long bombs, possibly, or breakaway runs from Cordell Patterson. Meanwhile, the Cowboys defense could end up being susceptible against Taysom Hill in the running game because that's who the Cowboys are right now.
Neither offense is good, but of the teams I could see Atlanta snowballing into a 6 turnover game quicker than I could New Orleans. So I'll go with Tampa Bay. I'll take Tampa Bay.
I think you're in a good position with both, my friend.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and hop on a Hunter's question. We have Claypool or Gallup, Knox or Schultz. As for Claypool, up until I see Ben Roethlisberger's arm miraculously coming, to be able to complete deep passes accurately and sustain long drives. I think one of the biggest things is once we see the Steelers start to be able to put drives together, Ben's arm just ends up shitting out on them. At least 1 or 2 passes per set of 4 downs. And that's making it very, very difficult for them to sustain longer drives and give Claypool second and shorts, which essentially allow him to take long bombs down the field. It's just not working over there for him. And so Gallup for me is the lock this week. In fact, you guys will find out how much I love Gallup in this upcoming matchup because he's going to be in one of these sections coming up. But I'm definitely going Gallup over Claypool, and I'd most likely go Knox over Schultz just because of the touchdown upside from the Bills.
Yeah, I want to go Claypool because they're seeing a similar amount of targets. Not really that big of a variation. And in theory, Claypool's targets should be worth more because they should be on deeper plays, except that Ben can't hit them on those. CD's coming back this week, and so's Amari Cooper, though. I'm going to go with Claypool. It's close, though, and it's mostly because both CD and Amari are back this week, and I think Gallup sees a little bit of a squeeze.
Oh, he wants to actually throw in Devontae Parker or Claypool or Gallup on this one. So does Devontae Parker belong in this conversation?
Not until I can see him get through a game. It's hard not to activate him because he's seen at least 7 targets in every game he's played this year. Last I checked, he was averaging something like 8.5 targets a game, but literally every game he's had at least 7 targets. It is like clockwork. I just worry about a guy coming back off the IR, especially a guy that fragile, that has a history of injuries. I just, not when you have a Claypool or a Gallup, you could run out there.
They do have the Giants.
Parker. I know. I just want to see Parker. Look, I'm playing it safe. I want to see Parker get through a game before I can risk putting him back in my lineup.
So I don't think there's anything that's happened to Bradbury over there at cornerback, right? Because I've been missing injuries left and right thus far in the season, or at least the past couple weeks. But Bradbury's actually pretty good up against bigger wide receivers. He's very physical. He struggles up against quick twitch guys like we've seen with Terry McLaurin when he's one-on-one in coverage. However, Devontae Parker, if he's on the outside, will most likely be Bradbury in coverage on Devontae Parker, and I don't like that matchup. So back to the previous conversation, Gallup or Claypool, I'm going to lock in Gallup on this one. As for Schultz or Knox, which one are you going with on this one?
I love both of them, but I'm going to go with Knox. Again, the conservation of targets, it's really hard to know when it's going to be a Schultz week, when all 3 of the wide receivers are healthy, and apparently Zeke is healthy now too. Don't worry about his knee. Jerry said he's fine.
Jerry said he's good. He's good. Hey, he gave him aluminum knees with the money that he gave him. So
yeah,
super light, easy to move around. He just doesn't know how to use them yet. All right, so let's go with one more question. We'll hop back onto the show sheet. What's up, Jamal? How you doing, man? Oh, we have Dawson Knox or Logan Thomas PPR, and this one for me is a little bit closer. I don't think the Schultz and the Knox one was as close as this one. This is pretty much almost back-to-back for where I have them ranked. However, with Washington up against the Raiders, I just don't know how you could argue against Logan Thomas. Yeah, sure, they might be trying to develop John Bates a little bit and try to get their younger players in, but winning the games that they've won over the past few weeks has kind of inspired this team, and they're playing better, and I think that might inspire possibly Ron Rivera to play his studs, versus trying to mix in these players like he was doing earlier in the season when they were on a losing streak, trying to find the right chemistry. I think they go to Logan Thomas in this one. Logan Thomas performs. I mean, like, he had a touchdown, and they called it back this past week, and it was
because he dropped it. Maybe it depends on what angle you look at.
Yeah, but they called it a touchdown.
Yeah, they did initially. It was close. It was close.
And whatever, like Washington won, I don't hate that they took it back. But at the same time, I think it could have been a touchdown just as much as it couldn't have been a touchdown. And since they called it on the field a touchdown, I think it should have been a damn touchdown.
I got you. But look, I understand your point there. Logan Thomas, I do have to say this, right? He played a heavily reduced snap rate in his first game back. He only played 79% of the snaps. As opposed to the 100% that he normally plays. Yeah. And he had 6 targets in his first week back. He's going to be at 100% snap share. Like, I was confused when I saw John Bates get a target last week. I was like, did Thomas get hurt? And I didn't know what's going on here. I'll take Logan Thomas. He's going to see a ton of targets. He's going to be on the field. Even with Gibson getting 400 receptions last week, he still saw 6 targets. So I'm definitely
kind
going.
of crazy.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go with Thomas there.
All right, I love it, and I love the volume that Washington is creating. By the way, with their wide receivers and with their tight ends and with the running backs, like they're playing so many snaps on offense per drive. They're just creating a bunch of PPR opportunities. Now, if you're not in PPR, it's kind of like, oh fuck, man, like this kind of sucks because he just caught a pass for 6 yards or 7 yards on every single play, and they're nickel and diming their way to relevance. But in PPR, which is the league you should be playing in anyways, it's absolute gold for this offense right now and how they're treating it with these short, quick twitch opportunities. All right. So real quick, I think that's it for the news. We have Mike McCarthy out, right, for the Cowboys. I don't really know how that affects anything because
I think that helps them.
That's what I would say. I don't think it's actually a hindrance. CeeDee Lamb's playing. I think Amari Cooper's not likely to play, correct?
No, they actually activated him today off the COVID.
So he's active.
Yeah, so I'm assuming he'll play.
All right, as of last night, I saw that he wasn't. All right, so he probably will play. However, what is it? Cedric Wilson is going to be out.
Yeah, said Wilson wasn't practicing because of it doesn't matter. It was a lower extremity, ankle, foot, whatever. It wouldn't have mattered anyway, to be quite honest with you, with CD coming back and Amari Cooper being back and Gallup. I mean, I'm sure he would have had 2 or 3 receptions, but you definitely weren't starting said Wilson.
Yeah, I think that CeeDee Lamb is going to be a stud this week, and I think Michael Gallup is too. I think they might use Amari Cooper more of a decoy route tree, moving as we get closer to the week and seeing just how they're treating everything. All right, let's go ahead and let's hop on to this game that we like to play.
Like is a strong goddamn word, but yeah, let's do it.
All right. So what we get to do is we get to pick a quarterback outside the top 15, tight end outside the top 15, and then a running back and a wide receiver outside the top 20. And we get to predict we can predict them landing inside the top 10. And I'm making a comeback this week on Jakob. He doesn't know it yet, but I'm coming for him. And maybe in a points per game, he's going to argue that, oh, wait, I scored better this year because of a points per game because I missed 2 weeks. Well, it doesn't matter because at the end of the season, it's the fantasy points at the end of the season that count, and I don't care what you say.
Okay.
All right. We're on to the quarterback position first. And Tua Tagovailoa is somebody who has been skyrocketing, up fantasy boards as of late. People are talking about how he's been playing elite and whatnot. And, last week he had somewhat of a subpar performance. It was something that, he was on track to play well. You have Jalen Waddle go off, but he hadn't had any of his wide receivers thus far. I mean, he has the Giants this week, and the Giants are falling apart. They could be in great field position throughout the entire game, pending on Daniel Jones and his injury. But, I'm just seeing Tua Tagovailoa in multiple opportunities to score this week with, I believe, Will Fuller's back, correct?
No. The last I heard, there's literally no idea when he's coming back.
Oh, I saw somewhere that will. Either way, you have Devontae Parker back. You have Jalen Waddle, who should be playing. I mean, he has more weapons now than what he had. Devontae Parker should release a little bit of pressure on him, just targeting Jalen Waddle 15 times again. I like where this team is going. I think that they're on a hot streak right now, and I think Tua is a big part or a big reason as to why I'm going with Tua Tagovailoa as my quarterback to finish inside the top 10.
I feel like I say this every week, man. It's freaking ugly. And I got to stop letting you go first. I guess I'm going to go Jimmy Garoppolo.
Again?
Yeah, I'm just going to keep beating it home until good matchup, and that's all I'm going on. Literally, that's all I have. I'm just looking at the matchups. It's not great. Matt Ryan, in theory, should have a good game against Tampa Bay, right? Because our poorest pass defense. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. So Jimmy G, he's going to bring it home for me.
What about Russell Wilson, man? I mean, San Francisco does not look good.
I cannot trust Russell Wilson right now. He looks as bad as he's ever looked.
Tyrod Taylor? All right, I'm going to stop throwing names out.
No.
I'll take it. All right, so we have Jimmy G. Oops, I forgot to bring that up so I can type it in. Oh, well, I'll just have to go back and rewatch the show. All right, so that's our first one. Let's go ahead and hop on to another couple questions. Oh, man. let's go to this statement real quick. Jacobs, he's been eating all those with, he meant to say, Ruggs out. Those targets have actually kind of funneled to Jacobs to an extent. And I did a study back 2 years ago, and I didn't continue it this past year in 2020. But in 2019, when somebody actually left and was the main target in the offense, the running back saw the biggest uptick in targets over the next consecutive weeks. If a running back missed 3 or 4 weeks, so Josh Jacobs has seen that, but I think Josh Jacobs has more to do with Kenyon Drake getting funneled out of the offense to an extent.
Yeah, I think it's a lot to do with the coaching change, like you said. They ran him out there and they said, "Hey, what's this Kenyon Drake guy got?" And they go, "Oh, okay, yeah, never mind. Yeah, let's just go to Jacobs." But I understand it from the sense of this. It's one of those backwards things where Ruggs, he used to loosen up the defense, right? Which would leave more opportunities, I guess, intermediate and across, in the intermediate areas. And now it feels like everything is just bunched down low. Although Deshaun Jackson opened it up last week, and also don't forget Waller's going to be out too. So there's another reason that Jacob should see his targets increase. Whatever the reason, they're increasing. I'm happy. I like it.
Yeah, Jacobs is going to smash once again. He's a lot better running back than what people give him credit for. He's not the most athletic, but his ability to break tackles is uncanny, and he's not a physical specimen. He's not like the Derrick Henry types or anything like that, but yet he's still able to produce, and that shows he's a very good football player. Kind of like Hunter Renfrow, and it felt like that's the direction that the Raiders were trying to build towards, just having good football players. And unfortunately, that took away from talent on other sides of the ball or other angles. But it seemed like, they know what they're doing when it comes to building a good football team overall.
Mm-hmm.
So, Hunter, big shout out to you, man. I appreciate you tuning in every single week and bringing in the questions. Don't forget to join us just in case we have any kind of opinions changing on Sunday morning at 11:30 for our Start to Sit show over there on Fantasy Football Discussion and youtube.com/fantasy intervention. All right, so we have one more question there. I'm going to get to you, John. But first, I want to go ahead and cover the running back position. And the running back position for me was tough this week. It was not easy like that. That was probably the toughest running back week. Last week, I thought there was a plethora of options. This week, trying to pick a running back outside the top 20, it felt like every single great running back who caught passes went up against somebody that was like in the bottom, 10 in DOCE Score. It was like the elite running backs. Like the Austin Ecklers of the world, stuff like that. So trying to find a running back who caught passes who I thought was going to be able to produce was a little bit tougher for me. And I went with Kenny Gainwell. Now, I know Kenny Gainwell isn't seeing opportunities. It didn't see opportunities until Boston Scott fumbled, until Miles Sanders got hurt. But this is the, ideal pass-catching running back who, once he finds space, we can see great things happen. And Boston Scott, sure, he could have weeks where he finishes inside the top 10, but I don't really see that happening. Now, this is a little bit risky because if Jordan Howard is healthy, pending Miles Sanders' health, we might not even see Kenny Gainwell healthy. So please pay attention to the waiver wires. But if you're in a situation where you need big-time points and you're just looking for a Hail Mary, I think that Kenny Gainwell is actually a great option in this matchup. We talk about the Jets being one of the worst teams up against pass-catching running backs. I believe the Jets are... So the Lions, I believe they're in the bottom 5 minimum up against pass-catching running backs. They've been extremely porous the entire year. Look for Kenny Gainwell to get utilized, especially in the red zone once they get close with Jalen Hurts, regardless of who's at quarterback, with Jalen Hurts out possibly and not being able to run if he is in.
Yeah.
It's a risky one. I know.
No, I'm not that. I'm gonna go with
Oh, you're trying to figure out yours. It's rough this week.
Man, it is brutal this week. Jesus. What's a DOCE Score? Who's got the best message by DOCE Score?
They're like I said, they're all the best ones are going up against them. If you guys want to look at the DOCE Score, it's a dump off containment efficiency score. You can kind of judge where pass catching running backs can actually have an opportunity. Like last week, you would have played J.D. McKissick up against the Seahawks because the Seahawks are 31st DOCE Score, allowing an 8.85 score overall, 15.6 points to pass-catching running backs. J.D. McKissick last night went off. It's very tough to know when to play J.D. McKissick. The DOCE Score enables you to do that. But in terms of the players at the bottom of the DOCE Score, it is completely bleak. All right, Alexander Madison up against the Lions. You can't do that because he's not outside the top. I think he's 6th ranked this week.
Yeah.
We have who was next? We have the Seattle Seahawks, who are the 31st we just talked about. They face the San Francisco 49ers. Elijah Mitchell, you cannot play because he's inside there.
Yeah, he's obviously top 10 as he should be.
Yep. The Raiders, for example, the Raiders are 30th. They play Washington. J.D. McKissick is injured, so we don't know if he's going to be able to play this week. All signs point to him possibly being able to play, but it's not something where I want to bank on him playing just because of what his agent said.
Yeah, look, there's no good answers. So I'm going to go with a guy that at least he's fully healthy. I'm going to hate this if Kamara plays too, but I need Kamara to play in most of my leagues that I have him in. I need him to play, but I'll go with Mark Ingram. Taysom Hill, his first game under center this year. Maybe his foot still bothers him a little bit, and they want to lean on the running game. So I'll just that's all I got. I'll go with Mark Ingram with no conviction whatsoever.
Thank you, Shane.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's not a terrible one. I mean, I was looking at Mark Ingram, and maybe they end up going to a 50-50 snap share, and Tony Jones just dies on the sideline. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for at this point. If I have either one of those players, or hoping the other players play at all, but that should never be the case for the Saints when they have both running backs at 75% health, because that's how the Saints operate. But I agree with you. So let's go ahead and hit another few questions. We have John McGrogan in the chat. DPPR League, 20 teams, Josh Reynolds or Gabriel Davis this week. I'm leaning Reynolds as he rekindles his relationship with Goff. And who else does Goff have to throw to? The Patriots defense concerns me with Davis. And I can agree with you to an extent. However, Gabriel Davis has these weird games with touchdowns. I'm still going to lean in Josh Reynolds in this one. He saw, 3 targets or 3 receptions for like 90 yards, I believe. Or was it 73 yards? Either way, he ended up having the long bombs and the touchdowns. So the target premium for him is through the roof thus far in 2021 when it comes to his high-value targets. And Josh Reynolds, all he did was catch touchdowns while he was with the Rams. So I think that we're looking at, like you brought up, chemistry, but also the only receiver who Jared Goff trusts outside of Hawkinson and Swift might not even play. So, I'm going to lean Josh Reynolds in this one.
Yeah, I'm going Josh Reynolds. I don't really particularly care about it's not even about the New England's defense. It's just that if there's healthy pass catchers on Buffalo's team, they don't use Gabriel Davis. So it's it's that simple. And you already described it, John, that maybe they rekindle because, yes, who does he have to throw to? And what I've noticed about the Lions and Jared Goff this year is they seem to lock on the one guy for a few weeks and then move off of him. So I guess it's Josh Reynolds' turn because they've already cycled through Khalif Raymond and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And now it's Josh Reynolds' turn. He's coming off his best game maybe of his career. Maybe he had a better game with the Rams. I don't remember.
He had a 2-touchdown game over there.
Yeah, so he, look, that's the one guy Stafford's definitely comfortable with. So I like Reynolds over Davis.
All right, so let's go ahead and hop on to another question since we're both in agreement. Thoughts on Dontrell Hilliard in 12-team leagues desperate for running backs?
I would have hoped you would have picked him up already. Pick him up. What are you doing?
I can't get on board with this. Like, I don't want to start him every single week. Sure, he had a great game against the Patriots, but the Patriots, that was a weird, funky game.
Very weird. Yeah, and his 61-yard touchdown was very flukish. Let's just say that. But he also did see, 11 targets in the passing game the previous week. So I don't know why he didn't see many this week in a negative game script, but I'm picking Hilliard up. I'm trying to pick Hilliard and Foreman up. So whichever one I actually end up with, I'm not okay with, but if you're desperate for running back, I'm definitely going to pick one of those two guys up. Because I'm assuming Jamal Williams and Alexander Madison are not on the waiver wire, or he would have specified they were.
When's the last time that we saw two running backs on the same team, rush for over 100 yards? The team only scores 13 points and they still get blown out in the process.
I wish I had a subscription to StatHead because I could look that up. If they want to sponsor the show and give us some free usage, we'll give us some free plugs. But I don't know. But that's not often.
That's absolutely insane. And I mean, almost like for Dontrell Hilliard, I'm like, depends on if Swift's out or not. But Jamar Jefferson, I might be willing to play over top of Dontrell Hilliard. That's pretty much where I have him valued at this point. Jamar Jefferson has seen opportunities with DeAndre Swift, not obviously being injured last week, but previously when Jamal Williams went out. I just think that he could have a role. I don't like Dontrell Hilliard at all moving forward.
Okay.
And yeah, Dustin Brown, if Gainwell is active, is the big question. That's the tough part about this. So let's go ahead and hop on to wide receivers. I see some more comments in the chat, which we'll end up pulling up for you guys here. But the wide receiver position is a little bit more fruitful than the running back position. In fact, last week it was there's several wide receivers I like to play. This week I feel like there's just as many. Do you want to take the first one on this? I don't know if you've even looked at the show sheet, but would you like to take the first crack at this? Because I actually have multiple wide receivers I'd like to play.
What's funny is you said you don't know if I looked at the show sheet. I think we both know if I looked at the show sheet or not. Literally, there's no doubt in anyone's mind. How is this possible? Is this can't be right, is it?
Which one are you looking at? Because I had like 3 or 4 where I want all 3 or 4 of them.
And I guess it's because JT's running so hot, they think he'll get 0 targets.
Are you talking about Michael Pittman?
Yeah. But
so I almost went with this one. And let me forewarn you before you dive into it, because I dove into it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Pittman last week was the guy that I picked. I believe he still saw 9 targets, only had like 3 receptions last week. However, last time that they faced the Texans, I think he only saw 3 targets. And T.Y. Hilton, who is the Texans' killer, for some weird reason, T.Y. Hilton always goes off against the Texans.
Yeah, there's always the guys have a number on a team like that.
And I think from the research that I did back in week 3, and I could be wrong on this, but the research that I did back in week 3, Michael Pittman is the only player that hasn't gone off up against the Texans, who is currently on the Colts roster right now. And
so you're trying to talk me off of him, but if you talk me off of him, I'm just going to move down and go take my same dude I took last week, Mooney, and that feels like cheating.
I'm going to take the same guy if you don't take him.
Fine, I'm taking Darnell Mooney. The dude's just target hog. It doesn't matter if Allen Robinson plays or not, to be quite honest. At the end, last practice report I saw, he hasn't practiced yet. But again, even if he does, I don't care. Darnell Mooney is the wide receiver 1 on that team, and they're going to need to score. They're going to need to at least throw to try to keep pace with Arizona, assuming Kyler Murray actually plays, and he's hopeful.
Yeah, so now I have the decision, and it's between 2 deep wide receivers. I want to hear in the chat. Actually, I'm going to pull up the chat right now. I'm going to have the chat down here. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I want to hear the decision between Van Jefferson up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. We have Gallup up against the Saints. So lean into whichever one y'all want to. Whoever you think is going to land inside the top 10, I want to see it, and that's who I'll actually take this week. But Van Jefferson, he's been seeing the targets as of late. He's gotten the opportunities. Last week he performed. I believe the week before that he performed as well. Meanwhile, Michael Gallup has a sick Amari Cooper, who is still seeing coughs, by the way, while he's at the stadium, which he didn't pass COVID protocol, but he was still at the stadium yesterday. That doesn't make any sense to me. Regardless, I'm trying to decide between Michael Gallup and Van Jefferson. I'm not even a Van Jefferson guy. I never have been. However, he is winning over my heart. He's with Odell Beckham. I believe Odell Beckham saw 98% or 93% of the snaps.
93, yeah,
93% of the snaps from week 12. So obviously Van Jefferson is still the 3rd wide receiver. However, Axel does want to see that I have pants on, so I'll go ahead. Yep, I got pants on, Axel. Oh, thanks for calling me out again, bud. But Axel wants you to stand up, Shane. Show him that you have pants on. Shane's like, nope.
Why? They don't think we wear pants?
The first time that I ever went live that Axel watched, he was like, I bet you're not wearing pants. And
God damn it.
I was not wearing pants that time.
Pants.
I was not wearing pants. It was like 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning. I just had boxers on, and he called me out for it.
I wouldn't do that. I'd feel completely inappropriate.
So let's see. We have Hunter in the chat saying Gallup. I know Coop and CD are back, but in my opinion, that helps in the slot. I may pay Gallup over Claypool. And then we have Jefferson, unless Cooper is out. So we're now split on the decisions. We still need to figure out the next person who comments gets it. Should I play Gallup or should I play Jefferson, who can finish inside the top 10 this week? Because I want one or the other, and I'm leaning Gallup. So nobody comments in the next few seconds. I'm taking Gallup.
I don't count, right?
I mean, you can count if you really want.
No, I'm not going to go into the chat. That's a lot of work.
Oh, that's it. It's Gallup. All right. Axel's telling me Gallup. I'm going Gallup. All right. So Gallup is the answer on this one. All right. Let's go on to this comment real quick. This year is so strange to look at my team and think I should clearly win, but I'm nervous. Herbert, Diggs, Evans, Pittman, Eckler, Jacobs, Knox, Claypool / Gallup, Tucker, Rams versus Wilson, Ayuk, Elijah Moore, Kenny Galladay, JT, Elijah Mitchell, Gesicki, Jones, New England, Butker. So are you saying that you feel like you should have a higher percentage than 59%, Hunter? Because I think that that's pretty close matchup overall with JT, seeing such a massive output. Elijah Moore being the wide receiver 1 from weeks 8 through 11. Elijah Mitchell going off last week. I could see how you think that you should take that away, but I mean, I think the 59% is about right. What do you think, Shane?
No, I mean, I get where he's seeing because he's got, he's like, oh, I got Eckler, who I just traded for. I just traded a lot for. Pittman, Evans, Diggs, Herbert. Does this guy not have a quarterback? Oh, over Mac Jones. Like, you look at the names and you go, these guys should crush them, right? But I got to look at the points over the last few weeks. Mac's been playing pretty well. Herbert's been pedestrian. I love using that word. A kicker, I couldn't even tell you anything about them. I know that Butker is a kicker for this Chiefs. Look, first of all, 59% is nearly 60%. That's a heavy margin. You know what I mean? Like, to be honest with you, I feel pretty confident if I'm going into a game with a 60% chance of winning, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I'll take that every time. All right, so let's see. Hilliard or Gaskin in the SFB 11 this week. Dustin, what's up, man? You're in the SFB? Didn't know that.
I am in the SFB, and I am very bad at the SFB this year. It's not great, but anyway.
I think I have to go Gaskin this one up against the Giants. Dump-off contain
Dontrell Hilliard?
Over Dontrell Hilliard for sure.
Yeah, Tennessee's on a bye, right?
Are they? Did I miss that completely?
I'm looking.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they're on a bye, so that's going to make that one pretty simple. I'm going to go with Gaskins because he's on playing. Look, Gaskin, I mean, look, even if this was a straight up week, let's pretend this is a week 14 question. I'd still go Gaskin just because he's seeing a lot of work. I mean, he's really getting a lot of work. So we'll pretend that that's a week 14 question when they're both on the field. I have no idea when Miami's bye is or if they've already had it. But assuming they both play in week 14, I would still go Gaskin. Just the usage it's so great right now.
Yep, agreed on that. All right, so let's hop into the last segment of this, and we'll go with the tight end position. Let me give you some time to look up the tight ends as I talk about Brevin Jordan. Brevin Jordan outsnapped, or actually didn't even outsnap. Jordan Akins was inactive last week because they want to get Brevin Jordan involved, and the Texans have nobody on their offense to pass to. Nico Collins is somebody who needs to be developed, and it's pretty obvious when he can't even get his feet in bounds on a play that he should have his feet in bounds on. Meanwhile, you have a double coverage over there on Brandon Cooks. It is something as to where, yeah, I should have picked Fabian Moreau, but I don't think that he was actually in that list, by the way, because I love Fabian Moreau more than life itself. Actually, let me check that. Let me peep that real quick.
Are you checking to see if you love him more than life itself?
Yeah, yes, no.
Who is Fabian Moreau? Is that Foster?
Foster. I was saying
Fabian. Is that who we're talking about?
Foster Moreau. I apologize. He was 14. Yeah, okay. There's a reason why I didn't pick him. I meant Foster. Fabian Moreau is the cornerback for the Falcons.
Yes.
So
you can't pick him a tight end. What do we got here? Running back, tight ends? What do we got here?
We're on tight ends.
All right.
So, no, Brevin Jordan is the guy over there for the Colts now. Sure, Pharaoh Brown played more snaps than this past week, but he is the run blocking specialist. And I almost said in Boston Rowe is getting used as a slot guy. No, Brevin Jordan is getting used as almost like a slot type receiver, slot tight end. He's taking over that receiving role. He saw more targets last week, and he's doing stuff with the ball. He's a exact replica of Delanie Walker, if I ever saw one. They play the exact same, style of play. I feel like they could be related in some way. Their weights are similar. Their speeds are similar. He is Delanie Walker 2.0. And you need to get, if you don't have him on your dynasty rosters, you need to get Brevin Jordan on your dynasty rosters and maybe even your redraft rosters if they are deep enough leagues.
Ah, boy. I'm going to go with, I really don't want to do this. I already picked Darnell Mooney, didn't I? Yeah, let me go with Gerald Everett. I'm loving his involvement in the offense lately. I really wanted to pick Cole Kmet, but I can't go to Bears. They just can't do that because that's just asking to lose. So, of course, what's going to happen now is Kmet's going to be top 12 and Mooney's going to finish out the top 30. I'll go Gerald Everett, man. They're finally starting to use him. You heard Russ Wilson talking about him on the Monday night, all the quotes. Oh, he loves his hands. Well, okay, we'll throw him the goddamn ball then, you fuck nut. Same thing goes for DK Metcalf, scumbag. What are you doing? I know. Look, this is a complete aside, but what is wrong with you, Russell Wilson? You fucking are you that much of a religious zealot that you won't throw to a guy just because he's going to have a foursome with some chicks? Don't hate. You know what I mean? Like, you're supposed to love everyone. That's what Jesus did. He loved everyone. Jesus would love DK Metcalf and toss him the ball like 40 times a game.
He would turn DK Metcalf his other cheek.
He would. Well, I don't know if he would want to do that because DK, he's a freak. He's a freak. DK, get off Jesus. Get off of him. I'm going to go with Gerald Everett because Russ Wilson, like I said, they're starting to use Everett some. He's a red zone threat, and I just love his hands, and he's an athletic wonder.
I had to throw one Jakob joke in there, at least one. Oh, man. All right, Shane. I think we're about done with this show. We don't have too much lined up. I'm moving at a speed. I set the show sheet up to move at a speed of Jakob, in with us. And yet we're finishing 10 minutes early. So let's get out of here. Let me let you enjoy your night and let everybody know where to find you.
Geez. I'm on Dynasty Trade HQ podcast every week. That's where I started. It's my home. Then I'm also on Dynasty Trades in 5 on YouTube. Mannequin Show on the Dynasty League Football YouTube channel, right, for Dynasty League Football and Fantasy Data. And then obviously Fantasy Intervention every Wednesday. And I can't wait till we're Dynasty Intervention again in the summer.
Yeah. Dynasty Intervention is coming at y'all. We actually dissect the leagues and the team, and we talk about which players need to be replaced and which players suck and which players are actually good for 2022. So if you guys are in Dynasty Leagues, make sure y'all hit subscribe on youtube.com/fantasy intervention to get all of the upcoming content that's heading y'all's way. Thank you guys for joining. Y'all can find me over there at fantasyintervention.com/DOCE for the DOCE Score, fantasyintervention.com for all the content for the rest of the season stuff that's coming up. And, of course, on Twitter at FF_intervention. Big shout-out Fantasy Football Discussion on Facebook. You guys rock. Keep those questions coming. And don't forget to join us for the start or sit questions at 11:30 on Sunday morning. Normally it's Thomas Tipple, myself, and just Sam, random guest. But, we'll get a little more consistent as we close out this season. Thank you guys for joining, and thank you all for letting us intervene with your fantasy football life. We're out.